Hello, 8th grade students, and welcome to this week's math lesson. Go ahead and please get out your math notebooks, turn to a clean sheet, name and today's date. Our objective today is I can find the volume of a cylinder. So, in looking at our cylinders, we're going to be using the following. So, our next two lessons involve finding the volume of a three-dimensional figure. We started talking about three-dimensional figures and scale factors when we began, but because of what we have transitioned to, we didn't have a chance to finish all the way through. So, we're going to pick up where we left off. Today, we're going to be finding the volume of a cylinder. Now, a cylinder looks exactly like so, three-dimensional. The formula we're going to be using is V equals pi r squared times h. Now, a couple key terms that I want you to remember is, number one, r is equal to our radius squared. H is equal to the height, and this little symbol here equals pi. And pi, again, is 3.14 we're going to use for this lesson. So, let's say I have the following cylinder that has a radius of 5 inches and a height of 3 inches. In doing so, we're going to take our values here and plug them in to find the volume. So, volume equals, again, pi r squared times the height. Now, if we take our values and just plug them in, we get pi, which is 3.14, times the radius squared. The radius, again, radius always deals with what? Circles, right. So our radius here is 5 inches. So we're going to plug in 5, we're going to square it, and then we're going to multiply that by the height, which is 3 inches. On your calculators, now remember class, we need to do 5 squared, so 5 times 5 is 25. So we get 3.14 times 5 squared, which is 25, times 3. So if we multiply these 3 units, our volume for this cylinder would be 235.5 inches. Now remember class, with volume, you always want to make it cubed for your final answer. So, the volume is 235.5 inches cubed. Very good. Let's look at another one, shall we? All right, let's say we're dealing with a decimal instead. Let's say I'm dealing with 1.5, it's a really small cylinder. 1.5 feet, and the height is 2.5 feet. So again, radius is 1.5, height is 2.5. Let's go ahead and find the volume of this cylinder. So, we're still going to use pi, so pi is 3.14. We're then going to multiply it by our radius being 1.5, so 1.5 squared, times the height, which is going to be 2.5. So, first things first, let's get rid of that squared. So 1.5 times 1.5. So that simplifies to, so if we were to write everything out once again, 2.25. So we now are going to multiply 3.14 times 2.25 times 2.5. And once again, you can put this in any order, it does not matter. Now, our volume, notice before we had a very finite answer. With this one, we got a little bit of a long decimal. We got 17.6625. And let's say for this, I want you to round to the nearest tenth. So again, quick refresher. Because that 6 is in the tenths place, you always look to the right. And because there's a 6 next to it, 5 or more, we raise the score. So our answer would be 17.7 feet cubed. So our answer, our volume for this would be 17.7 feet cubed. Very good. Let's look at one more, shall we? Now let's say instead we have a diameter instead. And this diameter is 15 kilometers. And our height is 7.5 kilometers. Well, gosh, how are we going to do this one? We need a radius. This is a diameter. How are we going to do this? Well, let's figure it out, shall we? So, first things first, volume equals pi r squared times height. Once again, pi is 3.14. Now, the diameter is, to find radius, you just take diameter and you cut it in half. So if we have our diameter is 15, what would be our radius? That's correct. It would be 7.5, because if I cut 15 in half, I get 7 and a half. So I get 7.5, square it, times 7.5, because that is our height. So if I do this, 7.5 times 7.5, times, one more 7.5, because that's our height, times 3.14, our volume, and if we were to round this to the nearest tenth, we would get 1,324.7 kilometers cubed. All right, let's go ahead and do our exit slip, shall we? All righty. Let's say I have a diameter of 20 feet, and I have a height of 15 feet. Go ahead and pause the video right now and find for me the volume of this cylinder. Okay, let's go ahead and solve it, shall we? So once again, V equals pi r squared times height. Pi is 3.14 times, so again, we're dealing with a diameter instead. I tricked you guys. We have to cut 20 in half, making it 10, so 10 squared, times the height, which is 15. Very good. So 10 squared, let's get that out of the way first, would be 3.14 times 10. 10 times 10 is 100, times 15. So if we multiply this all together, we get 4,710. Ten cubed would be our volume. Your homework is posted on Google Classroom. A few questions involving finding the volume of the cylinder. Join me next time, 8th graders. We'll be finding the volume of a cone. Keep studying.